All right, guys. So I have not looked into the Blake Lively situation drama, big Blake Lively drama. I haven't looked into it. So I'm curious to see what's going on here. Saw that Dan Murrell put out a video on it, and I'm just gonna slurp up some of that content. No, not. I don't need to do any research of my own. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my deep dive on this developing story, which is an all-out war that is erupting around the movie It Ends With Us, and it stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Now, as you know, this channel doesn't really deal with gossip, and that's really what the situation has been up until this point. Rumors and whispers of a feud on set, but it has now exploded into the public arena with threatened lawsuits and legal claims, and I think this is very much now an industry story because it involves things like PR firms, representatives, etc. And this is also a movie that was one of the biggest success stories of the year. It Ends With Us grossed nearly $350 million worldwide against a $25 million budget. And I decided to cover the story because this is a very complex case. The legal complaint that was filed by Blake Lively's lawyers is about 80 pages long. I'm really only covering probably a third of what's actually in there. If I covered the entire
Jesus. Sorry.
This video would be about 3 hours long, so if you want to go and find it, it's available to read online. It's got all of the evidence provided, etc., which apparently is now going to be refuted in a counter lawsuit. But this video is to scratch a little bit below the surface and see what's really going on with the story, which quite frankly I think is one of the most bizarre Hollywood stories that I've seen in quite a long time. Last week, Blake Lively, who starred in It Ends With Us and was also a credited producer, lodged a legal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department against her co-star and director Justin Baldoni, alleging sexual harassment and retaliation, among other charges. Others included in Lively's complaint included Baldoni's production company, Wayfair Studios, and his PR team at the time of the movie's release, including his personal publicist Jennifer Abel and crisis management specialist Melissa Nathan. Those names are important to remember because we're going to be talking about them a lot more as I dive deeper into the story, and it's important to note that the
Wait. Because I think the movie is about her and some other guy. And they're like, they're like in a love story or something, and I think it turns into like a domestic abuse situation. Was that actor also the director? Let me see something. It ends. Sorry. It Ends With Us. Director. Oh, so he also directed it? That's interesting, I guess. Okay.
The legal action filed by Blake Lively's lawyers is not, as of right now, a lawsuit. It's a complaint that was filed with the Civil Rights Department. It is seen by many as a precursor to a potential lawsuit, which now seems even more likely because as of today, when I'm filming the video, Justin Baldoni's lawyers are apparently preparing a countersuit of their own. According to Lively's complaint, on January 4th of this year, as the movie was planning to resume shooting after the strike stoppage, an all-hands meeting was convened to address the hostile work environment that had nearly derailed production of the film, according to the complaint. Present at the meeting were Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, Baldoni, and various producers and studio executives, including the head of Wayfair Studios and co-producer of the film, Jamie Heath. The complaint includes a list of what was discussed at this meeting. It includes a number of incidents that allegedly happened on set before work stopped due to the strikes, and all of these incidents allegedly involved Baldoni, Jamie Heath, or both. And here are just a few of the items according to the complaint that were addressed. No more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife, to Blake Lively and or her employees. This reportedly stems from an incident where Baldoni showed Lively and her assistant a graphic video of his wife giving birth, which they didn't want to see. No more descriptions of their own genitalia to Blake Lively.
No more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife, to Blake Lively and or her employees. What? No more descriptions of Baldoni and Heath's own genitalia to Blake Lively. No more mention by Baldoni of him speaking to Baldoni's dead father? An intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake Lively is on set. What?
No more mention by Mr. Baldoni of him
Jesus.
speaking to Blake Lively's dead father, which Lively claims he did in a discussion about his ability to speak with the dead. An intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake Lively is on set in scenes with Mr. Baldoni. No more personal, physical touching up or sexual comments by Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath to be tolerated by Blake Lively and or any of her employees, as well as any female cast or crew without their express consent. No more improvising of kissing. All intimate touch must be choreographed in advance with Blake Lively and an intimacy coordinator. No biting or sucking of lip without Blake Lively consent. And all intimate on-camera touching conversations must be in character, not spoken from Mr. Baldoni to Blake Lively personally. In support of this claim, Lively alleges that Baldoni improvised biting and sucking her lip during improvised kissing scenes and also shot those scenes more times than would be expected to be reasonable. And during a scene where no audio was recorded, that Baldoni spoke to her out of character, not as the person he plays in the film.
Man, this is so weird, right? Like, I guess it seems just like very unfortunate that an actor wouldn't just feel comfortable just leaving the shoot at this point. Like, I get it. I'm sure Blake Lively was like a producer or something. And that's like actual millions of dollars down the drain. You know, there are a bunch of crew people that, you know, would be out of jobs. But I just don't, like, if this stuff was actually happening, I just don't think we should be living in a world where people are pressured into continuing to be sexually harassed.
then licked her neck and said it smells so good, and after being confronted by this behavior, told Lively that he wasn't even attracted to her. Again, this is according to the complaint. No more filming of any Blake Lively nudity without a fully executed SAC-compliant nudity rider in place. Any such footage already shot without this rider in place and in direct violation of SAC requirements may not be used without Blake Lively's and her legal representative's prior written consent. This was apparently regarding a scene of her character giving birth. No more entering, attempting to enter, interrupting, pressuring, or asking Blake Lively to enter her trailer or the makeup trailer by Mr. Heath or Mr. Baldoni while she is nude for...
What the? Oh my god. That's fucking crazy. Jesus.
any reason. This stems from an alleged incident where producer Jamie Heath demanded a meeting with Lively while she was in a state of undress in her makeup trailer, and then when she asked him to turn around, continued to look at her, saying that he was used to looking at people while he was talking to them. And it also allegedly stems from incidents where Baldoni and Heath both entered Blake Lively's trailer while she was breastfeeding her child. No more pressing by Mr. Baldoni to sage any of Blake Lively's employees, no more adding of sex scenes, oral sex, or on-camera climaxing by Blake Lively outside the scope of the script Blake Lively approved when signing onto the project, and no more retaliatory or abusive behavior to Blake Lively for raising concerns or requesting safeguards. And again, this is just a partial list of the activities that were listed. This all paints a pretty damning picture of a troubling and quite frankly bizarre shoot up to that point, but according to Lively's complaint, all parties agreed that the behavior would stop for the remainder of the shoot. A formal document agreeing to the issues brought up in the meeting was signed by Lively and producer Jamie Heath, and the filming of It Ends With Us wrapped up just over a month later. Post-production on It Ends With Us has long been rumored to have been a conflict-ridden process, with Blake Lively commissioning her own edit of the film and getting Taylor Swift to contribute a song to the soundtrack. But the rumors of creative clashes and power struggles were separate from any of the harassment claims that Lively has now made public in her suit. And despite the fact that these weren't really public, they were obviously still on Baldoni's mind as the marketing campaign was getting ready to launch for the movie. In a text to his publicist pitching an appearance on psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Amen's programming, Baldoni allegedly wrote, quote, "I want to have an offensive move showing my neurodivergence. Most anything..."
So from Justin Baldoni. Hey guys, one thing I think I want to do is the Dr. Amen show. Matt, I know you have your feelings about it, but his practice saved my friend Miranda's life a few months ago. With everything going on, I want to have an offensive move showing my neurodivergence and some of the attitudes that come with it so that I can start talking about it. Most anything that I've been accused of is social awkwardness and impulsive speech. And I think me sitting down with him and just looking at my brain and talking about some of these things will be helpful for me. The same day, Miss Abel reviewed again the agreed upon list of whatever. That's not great. Jesus Christ, okay.
Thing that I have been, quote, accused of is social awkwardness and impulsive speech. The attempt to hide the rift between the two stars was not successful because the public began to notice things like the fact that they didn't follow each other on social media and the fact that Baldoni would make publicity appearances alone and not alongside fellow cast members. During the publicity campaign, Blake Lively received a lot of criticism about her statements and interviews, often avoiding the topic of domestic violence, a key part in the film, and focusing on other topics. According to her complaint, this was part of the...
Well, that's the one thing that I noticed about, or that I'd heard about the movie. Again, I never looked too deeply into it, but people were saying that the movie is like about domestic violence, but apparently like the trailer and Blake Lively herself like tried to like portray it to be this like oh look, it's a romantic movie. I don't know if it was like trying to be a romantic comedy or something, but apparently they were like trying to hide the fact that it was like a rather serious movie that dealt with domestic violence. And I remember people were really criticizing Blake Lively for that because seemed kind of insensitive, right? Like if you're trying to make your movie if you're trying to make a movie about domestic violence, how are you not going to talk about domestic violence? But maybe all that was just because of how close to home it actually ended up being behind the scenes. I don't know.
A marketing plan devised by Sony ahead of the film's release to soften the movie's edges. Lively included in her complaint a copy of this marketing plan, allegedly from Sony, which said in part, quote, "Focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence. Avoid describing the film as a love story or love triangle. It's the story of Lily learning how to take agency of her future. Avoid talking about this film..."
What to avoid? Focus on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence. Empowerment is not just about standing up to adversity, but also about having the power to overcome within oneself and grow from it and developing agency to shape the future. Avoid describing the film as a love story or love triangle. It's a story of Lily learning how to take agency of her future. Avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. Okay, so wait, this is let me just see if I understand this correctly. Was this by Sony or by Blake Lively herself? Hold on.
Would make publicity appearances alone and not alongside fellow cast members. During the publicity campaign, Blake Lively received a lot of criticism about her statements and interviews, often avoiding the topic of domestic violence, a key part in the film, and focusing on other topics. According to her complaint, this was part of a marketing plan devised by Sony ahead of the film's release to soften the movie's edges. Lively included in her complaint...
Oh, I see. So this wasn't her choice. This was This was like Sony being it was Sony the corporation. Got it. Okay.
A copy of this marketing plan, allegedly from Sony, which said in part, quote, "Focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence. Avoid describing the film as a love story or love triangle. It's the story of Lily learning how to take agency of her future. Avoid talking about this film in a way that makes it feel sad or..."
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's like such a fascinating revelation there because, yeah, like people, I mean, I get it, right? Like Blake Lively at the end of the day was saying whatever she was saying about Snow White, but or not, sorry. Sorry, my mind actually went to the Rachel Zegler situation. Like, yeah, like Blake Lively said what she said about It Ends With Us, but I guess it turns out that even though she was saying it on the in the press junkets, it wasn't necessarily like her beliefs, but rather just what she was told to say by the studio in order to have the most effective marketing. It's kind of fascinating. I wonder, I don't know, I'm not saying that that's what happened with the Rachel Zegler situation, but it definitely makes me think about situations where actors say dumb things, and just because of the Hollywood machine, it's kind of hard to know whose fault it necessarily is. Interesting.
or heavy, it's a story of hope. And one of the main criticisms leveled at Lively this past summer was that she wasn't tackling these issues, while Justin Baldoni was more than willing to bring it up. Here's just one interview he did with CBS This Morning in support of the film, where he talks about the effects of domestic violence and his support for survivors of domestic abuse.
The question that's always asked is, why did she stay? And that's the wrong question. What we need to be asking ourselves is, why do men harm? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable.
The response to Baldoni's statements was largely positive.
Okay, well, why was he just allowed to just yap about the topics here? Huh, interesting.
From viewers who felt that he was the only one willing to address serious topics, and a text to Baldoni's personal representative, Jennifer Abel, which was included in Lively's complaint and allegedly from...
Hey, just landed. What is the TikTok strategy? I'd like you guys to start posting me only talking about domestic violence clips and why this movie is so important. Okay.
Baldoni read, I'd like you guys to start posting me only talking about domestic violence and clips and why this movie is so important, end quote. And assuming that Sony's provided PR plan is accurate, this is a deviation from the studio strategy that was laid out. Baldoni's...
Yeah, interesting. So he was going rogue, maybe? Or I don't know, I guess so. Is the theory here that Baldoni was like maybe purposely trying to have Blake Lively look bad, like when he saw the reactions to her, you know, just kind of going with the standard studio plan, he decided to purposely like start talking about domestic violence more and more in order to look good compared to her? I don't know.
His willingness to jump into the difficult issues only sharpened the criticism of Lively, which was also fueled by the fact that she used the film's promotional push to also sell her own personal brands, including an alcohol brand, which many thought was insensitive given the movie's subject matter and the role that alcohol often plays in domestic violence.
yeah, it seems like an interesting choice, Blake. But Jesus, her and Ryan, they are entrepreneurs, aren't they?
However, in her complaint, Lively says that Baldoni and his PR reps used the promotional tour for It Ends With Us to launch a smear campaign with the design of tarnishing or destroying her reputation by generating or elevating negative stories about her and also defending Baldoni's reputation, and that this was all done as retaliation for Lively flagging what he was doing on set during production of the film and also to deflect from reports that might come out about their on-set issues. The complaint says, quote, this was the beginning of a multi-tier plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team described as social manipulation designed to destroy Miss Lively's reputation. That plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources. Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier is multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged at the film's New York premiere on August 6, 2024, that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Ms. Lively and her family. With that backing, Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfarer associates embarked on a sophisticated press and digital plan in retaliation for Ms. Lively exercising her legally protected right to speak up about their misconduct on the set, with the additional objective of intimidating her and anyone else from revealing in public what actually occurred. As such, the suit claims that in July, Baldoni hired PR rep Melissa Nathan and her agency, the Agency Group, or TAG, to not only spin the situation, but to provide their own social media accounts to engage in astroturfing. And no, I'm not talking about football here. Astroturfing in this context means generating negative stories from quote-unquote regular users on X and Reddit that are meant to push a particular narrative, but make it seem organic and that it's not coming from a PR rep or a PR firm. In this case, the narrative was a...
So they're saying that the Baldoni hired a PR firm to start making like bot accounts? Jesus. I mean, I don't know. Again, that's kind of crazy.
Pro-Baldoni, anti-Lively narrative. It should be noted that Melissa Nathan and her PR firm largely specialize in what's known as crisis PR, which is when somebody hires public relations in order to help them deal with a difficult public situation, often one that would make them look negative. For example, Melissa Nathan was hired by Johnny Depp during his trial with his ex-wife Amber Heard, and she reportedly has also worked with Drake and Logan Paul. On August 6th, Nathan provided a quote for services ranging from $175,000 that included...
Okay, Jesus Christ. Hi, Jamie, Jen. So incredibly glad that the press went so well today, and from what I know, Justin felt incredibly supported. He is lucky to have you all. We took the day today to do some research and get digital quotes in from the two teams we use that get the best results. As we're both aware, we are in a predicament that we just do not know the outcome of right now. Saying that, full transparency is key here. We have seen the most innocuous issues from giant... most innocuous issues turn giant due to socials, or the hugest crisis have no effects on social whatsoever. You just cannot tell at the stage, but Blake Lively does have some of the TS fan base, so we will be taking it extremely seriously. We also... Taylor Swift fan base, I think. We also understand audience is not solely JB. I might be lost here. The studio, so but the studio, so it is covering all bases time. Quote 1, 175K. This will be for a 3 to 4 month period and includes website to discuss, full Reddit.
Full Reddit, full social account takedowns, and starting threads of theories. This was pitched as 100% protection to $25,000 per month for, quote, creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts.
Jesus Christ. This will be okay. So they paid $175,000, or well, they were offered $175,000 to create websites and like just do takedowns on social media. That's fucking crazy. Or you could take the cheaper option, I guess, which is just $25K per month. So for 3 months, as it needs to seed, same as above, this will be for creation of social fan engagement and go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change the narrative and stay on track. Dude, this shit is terrifying. Oh my God. Like, honestly, one of the things that keeps me off of Twitter is just because of how, like, fake it feels. Like, it always just feels like it's so hard to tell when you're dealing with, like, actual people anymore. Right? Like, especially, like, when you're looking at a post by, like, Elon Musk or whatever, it's like all of the replies just feel like bots at this point. And when so much of that website is just like when it's hard to tell that, like, or like if you're actually seeing communication by actual human beings, it makes it just completely unappealing to me. And to see this in, like, just fully, like, just to know that even for, like, retarded, well, sorry, this is actually a pretty serious situation, but even to know that for, like, Hollywood gossip situations, that there are these companies out there that are willing to just, like, completely, like, artificially slant the discourse, it really just makes Twitter so unappealing. And even, like, YouTube comments, like, even on my videos, occasionally I'll get, like, YouTube comments that are obviously bots. Especially on, like, YouTube Shorts. Almost, like, a bunch of times I'll, like, watch, like, a YouTube short that looks kind of cute, and then I want to see, or that's, like, funny or cute, like, it'll be like a YouTube short about a dog or something, and you'll go into the comments, and it's just, like, obviously bots. And when I'm watching it, and when I like a YouTube short and I want to see people, write cute comments or funny comments, I just want to see what human beings are saying. And when I see, like, bots, it just immediately brings me down, just because of how disconnected we all are just in general. But then even online, human beings are being more and more disconnected from one another. I don't know. This is, like, a completely separate topic from this, but it's just crazy to see these services even being offered.
Helping to change narrative and stay on track. The text added, quote, all of this will be most importantly untraceable. At
Oh my God.
some point, Nathan and her firm's services were contract.
There is a lot more to both of these quotes, but easier to discuss via phone in terms of capabilities and what I have personally experienced in and out of crisis scenarios.
By Baldoni. According to a document that was included in Lively.
Hold on, let me see if we can read the rest of that. We'll take off the captions.
All of this will be most importantly untraceable. At some point, Nathan and her firm's services.
Either way, I do feel it is better to be safe, but I do realize costs are something I am sure you did not count on when you took on this project nor this situation. Let me know when you would like to discuss more around on PT tomorrow. Okay.
Were contracted by Baldoni. According to a document that was included in Lively's complaint, Nathan and her firm also drew up a battle plan, essentially, for what would happen if Lively came forward with her allegations about Baldoni's on-set behavior. This was with the intentions of smearing Lively personally, while again protecting Baldoni. This plan included talking points like, quote, when Blake Lively wasn't able to get her way on set or behind the scenes, she involved her husband to create an imbalance of power between her and Baldoni. Ryan Reynolds went so far as to use his power to call agents and agencies, Sony, and other key players so that Blake Lively would get her way. Blake Lively's less than favorable reputation in the industry spans decades and has been reported. There were issues on Gossip Girl, The Town, A Simple Favor, and more. There's a clear likely motive due to the film's value and forebase in which Blake Lively is attempting to bully her way into buying the rights for It Starts With Us. And then it also says that our team will include positive stats regarding Baldoni's career, his accolades, his inspiration, inspiration to take on this project, obstacles he overcame, what's in store, etc. To be honest, that is all pretty standard PR stuff. It feels slimy because it is slimy, because that business can often be a very slimy business. The difference with this case is that text messages between Baldoni's personal publicist Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan were obtained and included in the complaint, and that gives us a deeper insight into what we would usually get on this situation. These are the kinds of things that we would usually not see because they would not be introduced into evidence, and I must note that Jennifer Abel as well as Baldoni's lawyers have said that these are cherry-picked communications and that they do not represent an effort on their part to engage in a willful misinformation campaign in the
That's like, I don't even know, like, how can you... It's like, okay, well, you're going to need to provide the context. Because, like, that seems pretty clear-cut. You are literally offering to artificially slant the discourse. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
in the manner that they're being accused of. When Baldoni expressed that he wasn't sure the crisis firm could adequately protect him, Melissa
Okay, what is all this?
to engage in a willful misinformation campaign in the manner that they're being accused of. When Baldoni expressed that
You can of course do that, but I do think he needs to know I am going to be confidentially... I'm going to confidentially send you something. He's texting me and Jamie on the side just to arm you before this call. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried. I don't know who this is from. What is the top one from? Of course, but you know when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do because that could get us in a lot of trouble. Why would it get you into trouble if you're not doing anything suspicious or fishy? What?
when Baldoni expressed that he wasn't sure the crisis firm could adequately protect him, Melissa Nathan wrote, quote, "We can't send over the work we will or could do because that could get us in a lot of trouble. We can't write, we will destroy her." Imagine if the document saying all the things that he wants ends
We can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. We will go to this. We will do this. We will do this. We will do this.
up in the wrong hands. She later added, "You know we can bury anyone, but I can't write that to him." And yet another twist, Baldoni's publicist Jennifer Abel, the person that was texting
Yeah, I don't know. Like yeah, none of this makes you look good. I don't know.
with Melissa Nathan has come out in support of Baldoni in the aftermath of the complaint, claiming that no smear campaign was activated or necessary because Lively herself trashed her own reputation and the internet was just spreading news of what she'd said. Abel, in a roundabout way, accused her former firm, the person for whom she was working at the time all this happened, of leaking the text to Lively's lawyers in retaliation for what's been going on and for the fact that she left the firm. The firm itself has said that they did not leak the text and that they were subpoenaed and provided them because they had access to Abel's email and messages as her former employers. As for Melissa Nathan and her firm, Lively alleges that not only did they wage this warfare in the traditional media by planting stories and talking to reporters, etc., they also subcontracted people to go out and plant stories on social media networks like Reddit, stories that were not from journalists but were from quote-unquote regular users. The complaint says, quote, "Tag also retained subcontractors who weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to Los Angeles to create, seed, and promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. The Baldoni Wayfarer team would then feed pieces of this manufactured content to unwitting reporters, making content go viral in order to influence public opinion and thereby cause an organic pylon. To safeguard against the risk of Ms. Lively ever revealing the truth about Mr. Baldoni, the Baldoni Wayfarer team created, planted, amplified, and boosted content designed to eviscerate Ms. Lively's credibility. They engaged in the same techniques to bolster Mr. Baldoni's credibility and suppress any negative content about him." It should be noted that the contractor that's mentioned in the complaint is also mentioned in the private text between the two publicists and their references having done a good job on social media, so it seems there may be some truth to this part of the complaint. As for the traditional media, shortly after the movie's release, Melissa Nathan texted Jennifer Abel that she was able to get the 4 major trades to, quote, stand down on writing a story about the complaints that Blake Lively had filed with the HR department during the shoot of the movie. The 4 major trades being Deadline, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and one other trade, perhaps The Wrap or another publication. And in response to the Daily Mail publishing a story speculating that Blake Lively was about to be canceled for her statements on the promotional tour, Abel texted Nathan, quote, "Wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece," to which Nathan replied, "That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best," which suggests at least that she was directly involved in the negative story. A text to Jennifer Abel from Nathan on August 4th states that she already spoken to the editor of the Daily Mail off the record and that she's, quote, "ready when we are." A few days after that exchange, Abel texted Nathan
I guess what maybe they could just say maybe what they could say is that yes, we spread negative stories about her, but it wasn't necessarily misinformation. Maybe? Because, I mean, I guess that's possible, but, I mean, even still, it's definitely slimy. You know what I mean?
that she believed, quote, "We really need to put the social combat plan in motion," to which Nathan replied, quote, "So do I," and the piece in the Daily Mail ran a week later.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that they're like, listen, we can't explicitly state what we're going to do. I mean, the fact that they wrote that in a text message is just not going to make you look good at the end of the day.
A little while after the movie's release, Nathan texted Abel, quote, "I really think the worst is over. I do think the next few months will be a tiny bit bumpy, but not canceled," to which Abel replied, quote, "The narrative online is so freaking good, and fans are still sticking up for Justin. You did such amazing work." A few days later, Abel texted Baldoni saying, quote, "Fans remain supportive of you and believe the issue of the feud is because she took control of the movie," which to me sounds like a roundabout acknowledgement that there was a goal to suppress other
The whispering in the ear, the sexual connotations, like Jesus Christ, other members feeling uncomfortable watching it. I mean, there's just so much. Nothing, very, very little pickup. Fans remain supportive of you and believe the issue of the feud is because she took control of the movie. I mean, this stuff right here is very interesting.
To which Abel replied, quote, the narrative online.
Yes, I had some people text me too, and I just didn't respond. The narrative online is so freaking good, and fans are still sticking up for Justin. There literally has been no pickup of those 2 articles, which is actually shocking to me, but I see this as a total success, as does Justin.
It's so freaking good, and fans are still
You did such amazing work.
sticking up for Justin. You did such amazing work. A few days later, Abel texted Baldoni saying, quote, fans remain supportive of you and believe the issue of the feud is because she took control of the movie. Which to me sounds like a roundabout acknowledgement that there was a goal to suppress other reasons. In a coda dripping with irony.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
If you do believe that Lively was smeared.
And socials are really ramping up. It's actually sad because it just shows you have people really want to hate on women.
And targeted by her firm, Melissa Nathan texted Abel on August 10th regarding the negative coverage of Lively saying, quote, it's actually sad because it just shows you how people really want to hate on women. In the wake of the movie's release, the allegations of on-set misconduct never really saw the light of day outside of vague rumors and reports of past incidents, so it seems on that front that the work of the TAG PR team was effective in suppressing those stories, and public opinion of Lively during this whole situation took a sharp downturn, whether it was the product of a systematic targeted media manipulation campaign or not. Lively claims that her personal life and career were heavily affected by what she alleges to be the actions of Baldoni and his PR team, including the fact that she felt forced to back out of hosting the season premiere of Saturday Night Live back in the fall, and that her product lines across different areas had a sharp downturn in sales. And in summation of the complaint filed, Lively's lawyers wrote, quote, as laid out in his complaint, the Baldoni Wayfarer-led public attack of Ms. Lively was the intended result of a carefully crafted, coordinated, and resourced retaliatory scheme to silence her and others from speaking out about the hostile environment that Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath created. As such, it was not only unconscionable and a breach of contract, but also illegal under both state and federal law. Ms. Lively brings this action to hold Wayfair and its leaders, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Mr. Sarowitz, accountable for the ongoing retaliation, threats, and harm they have caused Ms. Lively, other cast and crew, and all of their families. Through this complaint, Ms. Lively seeks to set the record straight, to hold the Wayfarer parties and associates accountable, and to shine a light on this new form of retaliation so that it will not be used against any others who seek to stand up and speak out against sexual harassment. Now, as I mentioned, this is just part of the complaint that was filed. It was also claimed in Lively's complaint that there were other members of the team on It Ends With Us that filed complaints with HR, which fell to Wayfair, which is Baldoni's company, to investigate, and that Wayfair did not investigate or ignored those complaints, and that when Blake Lively went to Sony, the film's distributor, and asked them to look into it, she was told that they were the responsibility of Wayfair and that Sony didn't have any power in the matter. Now, this is a single-party complaint, meaning that everything that we've heard is just Blake Lively's side of the story, and Justin Baldoni's attorney issued a strenuous denial shortly after the complaint was filed. He said, quote, it is shameful that Ms. Lively and her representatives would make such serious and categorically false accusations against Mr. Baldoni, Wayfair Studios, and its representatives as yet another desperate attempt to fix her negative reputation, which was garnered from her own remarks and actions during the campaign for the film. These claims are completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious, with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media. Wayfair Studios made the decision to proactively hire a crisis manager prior to the marketing campaign of the film due to the multiple demands and threats made by Ms. Lively during production, which included her threatening to not show up to set, threatening to not promote the film, ultimately leading to its demise during release if her demands were not met. It was also discovered that Ms. Lively enlisted her own representative, Leslie Sloan with Vision PR, who also represents Mr. Reynolds, to plant negative and completely fabricated and false stories with media even prior to any marketing had commenced for the film. Not a very well-written sentence there. What is pointedly missing from the cherry-picked correspondence is the evidence that there were no proactive measures taken with media or otherwise, just internal scenario planning and private correspondence to strategize, which is standard operating procedure with public relations professionals.
I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, if it comes out that this is just how Hollywood works and Blake Lively was doing the same shit, I mean, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that will, like, at least for me personally, leave it at some kind of standstill. But at the end of the day, like if this guy actually, like at the end of the day, like if this guy is being or did like sexual harassment on set, and if he was just acting fucking weird on set, the fact that he would just do a smear campaign instead of, you know, owning up to it, then it does. I guess at that point, it wouldn't really matter if Blake Lively was also doing the fucking Cold War social media war shit. I don't know. It's interesting.
All out to the situation has been swift. Baldoni was dropped by his talent agency WME, who also represents Lively, and she has received support from her co-star in the movie, Brandon Sklenar, and the author of the book It Ends With Us, Colleen Hoover. Sony, who distributed the film, has condemned any, quote, reputational attacks that may have occurred. And things seem to be getting messier, because on Friday, the Daily Mail ran a story claiming that Baldoni, Heath, and the publicist named in Lively's complaint would soon be filing a counter lawsuit. The story says, in part, quote, as soon as the courts reopen after New Year on Thursday, an explosive counter lawsuit will be filed by Baldoni, his business partner Jamie Heath, and the publicist named in Lively's complaint. This will say that it is Lively's side who are responsible for smears against Baldoni, rather than the other way around, and claim that apparently damning emails, texts, and WhatsApp messages from Baldoni's publicists have been presented in a way that changes their meaning. The counterclaim will also allege that Lively's publicist Leslie Sloan, one of Hollywood's most influential women, tried to smear Baldoni by planting stories with numerous news organizations. The nub of the legal action, which Baldoni's attorney Brian Friedman has spent the past few days preparing, is that Lively's complaint, unusually submitted to the California Civil Rights Department rather than a court, is a ploy to rebuild her public image. It should be noted, as we discussed before, that Melissa Nathan listed close contact with the Daily Mail in her communication with Jennifer Abel, so it's really not a surprise that they would be the ones to report on a countersuit before it's filed in court. In response to the news, Leslie Sloan, who is the PR rep on behalf of Lively that was mentioned in the story, said, quote, I was contacted on August 11th by Sarah Nathan, Melissa Nathan's sister, forwarding an anonymous tip that Page 6 received regarding allegations of HR complaints on the set of It Ends With Us. After that, I was contacted by various press outlets asking about allegations of HR complaints. When contacted, I responded to press questions by referring them to Wayfair or Sony for information information regarding HR complaints, it's clear that Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfair associates are suggesting that I originated press stories about HR complaints on set, which is false. Please read Ms. Lively's complaint and the complaint filed by Jonesworks LLC and Stephanie Jones, which provides the details of the campaign against my client. Baldoni's lawyer also responded to news breaking about the countersuit, saying, quote, I'm not going to speak to when or how many lawsuits we are filing, but when we file our first lawsuit, it is going to shock everyone who has been manipulated into believing a demonstrably false narrative. It will be supported by real evidence and tell the true story. In over 30 years of practicing, I have never seen this level of unethical behavior intentionally fueled through media manipulation. Stand by. So what we have here is an ugly situation that's about to get a lot uglier, with two sides, co-stars in the same movie, that are each accusing the other of trying to smear their respective reputations through shady and underhanded and malicious PR strategies. So what does this all mean? Where do we go from here? Well, if Lively's story is true, then Baldoni, his producers, and his PR team engaged in some pretty reprehensible behavior. Taken at face value, Lively's allegations of on-set misconduct are a horrendous picture of misogyny and harassment, largely perpetrated by director and star in Baldoni, who for years has positioned himself as an ally to women and publicly became the advocate for domestic abuse survivors on the publicity trail for the film. If Baldoni's side is true, then the allegations are the result of a misinterpretation of his statements, and he's the real victim who was slimed in the press by Lively's PR team in a power struggle and an attempt to deflect from Lively's own failing reputation, which she brought upon herself. Baldoni's PR team was just taking steps to protect their own client in the leaked documents, steps which proved unnecessary due to Lively's own behavior. I do think that there was an effort on the part of Baldoni's PR to elevate negative stories about Blake Lively. Now, whether those stories were generated by the PR department or whether they were the natural result of things that Lively said or did while she was promoting the film, I can't really say. The evidence in Lively's complaint seems to point to the fact that there was an effort to negatively influence the public's opinion of her, an effort that, by the way, worked very well. I don't know. I'm curious to see what Baldoni says in his lawsuit and the evidence he has to support the fact that Lively launched her own PR campaign against him, but I have to...
Yeah, I mean, that would be the thing, right? So, like, as far as, like, the PR campaigns, if Blake Lively was doing, like, similarly slimy stuff, and if that just kind of is how Hollywood works, then I don't know if you can necessarily, like, blame the Baldoni guy if he's just kind of doing Hollywood the way that Hollywoods. So if it is the case that Blake Lively, if it is the case that that's not necessarily how Hollywood works, and you know Justin Baldoni is just being uniquely slimy there, then that would obviously be a tally against him. But at the end of the day, the most important stuff is, are the allegations true of his, misconduct on set? Like, at the end of the day, that's the most important stuff, right?
To say, just looking at the results, it was not a very successful campaign because Lively came out of this looking much, much worse prior to any of these complaints being filed. And I think that neither side is as innocent as they claim to be. The people that I think are going to come out looking worse no matter which way this goes are the PR firms, because PR is something that the average moviegoer doesn't really think about that much. And to be fair, probably 90 to 95% of work that's done in public relations is very innocuous. It is about selling the movie. It is about talking points. It is about sticking to a marketing plan. But the world of crisis PR in general is a nasty, dirty, slimy sewer of a business. And the more that comes out about it and how this works, the more people I think are going to be surprised by just how often public opinion is manipulated, or at least an attempt is made to manipulate public opinion using some pretty underhanded and at times nefarious methods.
Yeah, for sure.
Check out these deals of the week at Walgreens.
I think that there are things on either side that sort of cast doubts on both sides of the story. For example, if the marketing plan that Lively provided in her complaint is true, then you really can't deny that Baldoni did depart from the talking points and did decide to talk about domestic violence. And that does seem odd if he wasn't trying to make Lively look worse by comparison. But at the same time, I think that that's a terrible marketing plan from Sony. The idea of burying domestic violence, which is really the thing on which the whole movie turns, in order to sell the movie as a happy, brighter movie.
Yeah, but it would make Blake Lively look better because she was just doing what she was told. Like, that would make Blake Lively's comments not seem as bad on her part. I mean, sure, maybe you could say that, well, she should have stood up against Sony, but I wouldn't necessarily like put the onus on her to do that. To be honest, like, at the end of the day, she's playing ball.
Movie. This wouldn't be the first time, however, that the studio has no idea how to message the movie that they're trying to sell. Looking at Lively's side, though, you can't deny the fact that she did use the promotional campaign for It Ends With Us to also promote her own personal products, which, given the theme of the movie, I think is a questionable decision at best. I'd say it's actually in pretty poor taste. She has said that the timing on the launch of these products was made independently from the promotional campaign of the movie, but still, you've got to read the room and decide what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And so I think the fact that she did do those things that were outside of any sphere of influence from Baldoni or anybody else, undercuts her case a little bit, and she surrenders a bit of the high ground that she's trying to claim. What I do know is that despite being one of the biggest hits of the year, it seems very unlikely that there will be a sequel to It Ends With Us, because Baldoni is obviously not going to be brought back to the project. And quite honestly, I don't think that Lively, given everything that surrounded this movie, is going to want to return to this role. I'm sure that this story is going to continue to play out over the next weeks and months. I don't know if I'm going to follow it gavel to gavel, beat by beat, but with a countersuit allegedly on its way, I'm sure that will inspire another lawsuit, an official lawsuit from Blake Lively and her team. There may be a nasty court battle in the future. But regardless of what happens, the one thing that I think that we've all learned here is that no matter how uplifting or inspiring a movie may look on its surface, there is often a deep, dark underbelly lurking just below. So that is my detailed, although not every gory detail, breakdown of what's going on with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. What do you think of this whole court case? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, stay tuned right here to the channel. Tomorrow, I will be covering the Christmas week box office on Charts with Dan.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that based on at least what we've been presented with in this video, we just kind of need to wait to see how the court cases play out, right? Like, if this Baldoni guy actually did the misconducts that are being alleged, then yeah, I mean, fuck him, obviously. And at that point, like, I don't know. Like that's just like the worst thing that's being alleged, and if he's guilty of that, then fuck him. And yeah, I mean, if he actually went so far as to like manipulate the discourse artificially, that's even worse. If Blake Lively falsely accused him of that stuff and she artificially manipulated the discourse, that's really awful too. So we kind of just need to wait and see. But either way, for me, like the biggest things I'm taking away from this is just how terrifying the fact that that's even a thing that people do. That's just horrifying. And it makes me want to be on the internet less and less, if I'm being completely honest with you. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.